Hey man, it's Phil X, and you're watching Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen. And Guitar Tales, guitar tales. Like, what else do you need, right? Guitar. We're geeks, nerds, gear, inspirations, positive vibes. Look out.
Rudy Sarzo on bass guitar. Bang your head. Wait the day. We're all meant to make. It's on your head. I want you to sing it.
What a spectacular show we have starting in just a few minutes. And before we get into that, as we do every week, I want to thank our sponsor, Confections of a Rock Star. If you go to Asbury Park, you have to check them out. They are a rock and roll based bakery with fantastic food, fantastic decor, and most importantly, great people there. We go to all the time. We go to Asbury Park, and I can't go without stopping in and saying hi and getting a delicious bite to eat, including, as you just saw, cupcakes, which means you could bring something home for your pooch. I'm actually petting my pooch as we speak. So check it out, Confections of a Rock Star. They support us here in Guitar Tales, which of course is a very good thing. So that being said, we have such an amazing show, and I know our producer, publicist, and overall great friend, Scott Guitarmist, worked so hard to put this together. I want to invite Scott out of the green room and here and introduce our great guest.
Good morning, LA.
There you go. There you go.
Our guest is coming to us from LA. He just literally woke up, I think.
That's right.
Hope he
And
likes
why am I drinking an espresso? It's afternoon for us.
Yeah, it is. So we're excited to have Rudy on. He's a very busy fellow these days. Even now and then he was very. I don't think he's ever stopped playing bass
No.
or gigging or whatever.
No,
So-
and the caliber of the acts he plays with is literally through the roof. It's a who's who
Oh yeah,
of powerful groups. Quiet Riot, Ozzy. I mean, you could stop there, but you don't need to. Guess who?
Whitesnake.
Whitesnake. All amazing stuff.
So what do you think? We get the show on the road here.
Let's
I know
do
he's
it.
a sip of water. Hopefully he's not choking on the water. That would be bad. We'll have to hit the cough button. Good morning, Rudy.
Good morning. By the way, I got up at 6, Los Angeles time, and I already had my espresso.
There you go.
I'm making myself with Cuban coffee.
Very
Cafe,
nice.
Yeah, Cuba Cafe Llave. It's kind of like espresso with like almost like a cortadito. I put some oat milk,
Nice.
and it foams really nically because I used almond in the past, and it just
Yep.
lays flat. There's no foam to it.
Oat
The almond
has-
milk, the oat milk will give you foam.
Oat milk also has more richness to it.
Yes,
I think.
it's
Yeah.
a better texture. It's less watery.
No,
And
right.
I already had my first lesson, music lesson of the day. I always go right after breakfast. I meditate, and then I go straight to YouTube, and I'm working on the George Russell Lydian concept, chromatic Lydian concept, and I find that very fascinating because I've been trying to capture with my playing the music that I grew up with. I was born in Cuba, so I was born into a very they call the music surrounding.
Okay.
And there was music everywhere you went, so you couldn't really escape it, even if you wanted to. But I don't know why what you would not want to, because back in the day we didn't have social media, so our social media was attending public events. So
Could you imagine?
dances, places
Yeah.
like that, or going to I lived in Havana, so I have relatives who were performers. My aunt worked at a casino, so we would go to a casino, and there would be all these bands performing, just like in Las Vegas, but in the lounges.
Mm.
The rare, so that's the type of casino we're talking
So
about,
you
which
got to
was
get
just
into some of these venues at a young age and just got to see
well,
some of this stuff.
yeah, I started gambling at 5. Yeah, I was playing poker. No, no, I mean, those, they had different rules back then. You could bring your kids to a bar as
Sure.
long as they
Right.
didn't drink. They that that,
Or
that was okay. You know,
smoking Cuban cigars was perfectly okay, though.
yeah. I've only done it once in my life. That was in Rosarito, Mexico, which is kind of like below Tijuana, and
Okay.
I had a cohiba and I got really ill.
Yeah,
Mm.
that extra nicotine when I've done it or
Yeah.
I've inhaled a cigar,
Oh
it
yeah.
ain't good. It's a bad feeling.
No
Yeah.
bueno. Well,
Do you
maybe it
No.
was also the amount of tequila that I drank.
That'll do it too.
I
That
mean,
might
George gave me a
yeah,
Cohiba.
that was also like my
Rose
last phase
Cohiba.
of actually, drinking. I've been sober for 26 years, so you can imagine how long ago that happened. But going back to music, and I'm glad this is a guitar-oriented show because it's about music. What
Right.
we're going to talk
absolutely.
about, you know. And yeah, so I'm really interested in recapturing all of that 50s Latin jazz period that I was surrounded with living in Havana. We didn't call it Latin jazz, we just call it, Latin, Cuban music. We just call it music. We didn't even put
Right, right,
Cuban in
right.
there. It was what we listened to. It was all music.
Mm.
And I'm just trying to like get under the hood and see what made up all that harmonic structure of that music. Yeah.
When did you get your first taste of, I don't know, American or British rock and roll? If you were mostly listening to Cuban music in your early days.
Okay, talking about first taste. Okay, here, just and I'm from the Caribbean. I'm a West Indian,
Right.
having been born in Cuba. So when we talk about Afro-Cuban music, okay, see, it says Afro. Without the Afro, there would be no Afro-Cuban music. Ironically, it's not Afro European. They call it Cuban Afro because that's the essence of it. It's the tribal rhythms and the harmonic structure, basically based on pentatonics, that was brought in from Africa, and there's a fusion of the European dance music. And that
Mm.
was the first real Afro-Cuban, I would say, would be el danzón, which is high society dance music that had the percussion. See, we didn't have drum kits in Cuban bands, so that was
Interesting.
something that was new to me when I arrived in the States. I have seen drummers, but they were visiting. They were not really local guys. There was
Right.
not to, in real Afro-Cuban music, or Latin music, there were no drums. Even
Just
in some
percussion.
percussion, even traditional Mexican bands, they don't have drums. Listen to one of
Mm.
those norteño bands, and there's no bass player, it's a tuba, and he will be like riffing out on the tuba all of these really cool lines. I mean, like almost impossible to play. But they,
Right.
so in Latin, what is derived from, let's say, any European influence in the music. Remember, Mexico was under rule of Austria, France, and Spain
We're gonna get a
before they were.
historical lesson too. Isn't this
Yeah.
I'm
great?
Well, I
enjoying
mean,
this.
because the music comes with it.
It
It's part
does.
of it's
It's
part of the
absolutely
culture.
connected.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's the soundtrack,
That's
really,
right.
of the culture. And what happens is, okay, so now you're mingling the African beats, which, by the way, colonial Spaniards allowed the Africans to play their percussion instruments when they came to the Caribbean. That's what we're
Right.
talking about. Now, the ones, and I hate to use the word slave. So I mean, I'm not trying to rewrite history, but it's such a ugh, I hate to
Yeah.
say that word. But so the Africans, they were with the British, the Anglo uh, colonials. Their percussion instruments were taken away from them.
Mm.
Hmm.
That's why you have the blues. And what I'm trying to say here is, here's the connection. Africa brought in the blues, right? Either
Yep.
through it's the same 1-4-5 progression in those songs, whether it's a Latin song, Guantanamera,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
one
yeah,
four
yeah.
five. All the
Yep.
traditional songs in Cuba were 1-4-5. Also made popular on Top 40 radio by Santana.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, to me, Santana was a perfect blend. It was the blues
Oh
and the
yeah,
African together.
and
Yep.
And
and
on
and tons of percussion, right?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Latin
The
percussion.
African,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yep.
African side, and then the blue side put together. That to me is the most sincere form of rock and roll. Sincere by meaning that you have all the elements brought in together; they're not
That's right.
separated. So what happens is except for a pocket of Louisiana, which was French rule, that's where
Yep.
you get the percussion. That's where you get all of the different rhythms. Jazz. That's where you get
Yeah.
jazz from. Louis Armstrong, the father of jazz. Uh, and then everything, and of course, it flows from being on the Mississippi. You're gonna have jazz going up and down the river to Memphis
Yeah.
in different form. You got R&B, and then it winds up in Chicago. You got blues. So
Yeah. That's
that
right.
was kind of like that was the artery,
Oh,
from the right from the heart of American music going up and down the country, the
have you
Mississippi
taken the
River.
trip to the crossroads? Have you ever done that little journey?
No, but the the House of Blues in Hollywood
Yeah.
was what the myth was that the actual what is sighting from the building at the crossroads was
Oh.
put on the outside. That siding would that represented supposedly the actual building
Oh,
Oh, really?
that's pretty
at the
cool.
crossroads. So when you
Yeah.
play inside of the House of Blues, you were basically
Sort of, kind of.
sort of kind of with
Yeah.
that's as close as I came, because even if I went there right now at the crossroads, the structures would not exist. It would
Right.
just
Right.
be a point in space and time, the fourth
Right.
dimension,
Right. And
XYZ, and time, the fourth
Right.
dimension.
that's right. And you will or won't feel, yeah, sort of the essence of what was created there. You might not. You might.
Well, if you do it right, you can feel it yourself. It's all
Yeah.
within us. Within us, it's
Yeah.
it's, it's a frequency, or
Uh,
or a a series of frequencies. And that's just not one. If you play just one note, that's not going to mean anything. It's like me saying one word.
yep.
Any of us, like the.
And then the shuffle beat is kind of like a heartbeat, right? Bump, 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 bump.
Oh yeah. Oh, they took a lot of beats from train tracks, trains
Yeah.
going by, just like in the Jive Talking, the Bee Gees. And I'm familiar with this bridge because it's in Miami. I also grew up in Miami. At first, my family, when we came to the United States, first we went to Miami.
Mhm.
Right.
Then we went to New Jersey. We were relocated to New Jersey, and then we came back to Miami again. And there's this bridge that the Bee Gees had to take from where they live to go to Criteria to record. And I know exactly what they're talking about. And when you go down over those wooden bridges, especially in Florida, because at that time they were old, they were
Yep.
about to
Yep.
be repaired or replaced. So they still had the original bridges that were built in the 20s and 30s. And if you're familiar with Miami, you get a lot of beating on the wood. And
Yeah.
I know because
Yeah.
I used to keep my bass guitar after playing for 6 sets a night in the trunk of my car.
Oh man.
There's definitely a rhythm there. I mean, when I pull into a gas station in New Jersey, we don't pump our own gas. I hear ga-gung, ga-gung, ga-gung from the
Oh yeah,
pump,
yeah, absolutely,
and I'm sitting there
absolutely,
tapping on my legs, going,
absolutely.
"What is wrong with me? Am I just jamming to
Yeah,
the gas
yeah.
station pump?"
Absolutely. So just to encapsulate what we're talking about here. So when the Africans they were not allowed to play their own instruments. Of course, the banjo is actually an there's a version of an African instrument that
Yeah,
it's
Janet
like the
Robin
banjo.
just said that on
Yeah,
our last show.
She
I know
did.
you know
yeah,
Yep.
Janet.
yeah. So
She's doing like a deep dive into the blues and stuff.
yeah, so you go from the banjo to the guitar, and that became the main instrument. But if you put percussion and you put that guitar together, you get Santana. basically. You know, so
Yeah.
they were separated at the cradle. The blues and Latin music, they come from the same family, the same, the same children.
That's great. And you're primarily associated as a heavy metal bass player, first, but bass is so much more than that. There's so many other avenues and roots that go into modern bass playing. From the heavy stuff to the jazz to the, so you you look at primarily heavy metal bass players like Lemmy or John Entwistle or whatever. They had a very distinct trebly kind of bass tone, a very hard playing bass tone. But there's a lot of rock players that bring in those jazz flavors and stuff, and I think you definitely do that. Your bass playing is very melodic.
Well, I have a lot of great mentors, growing up. To me, heavy metal is just an attitude. Music is music.
Right.
It's like words. You have a certain attitude. If you try to put something across, make a statement, there's going to be an attitude behind it, whether it's a happy, joyful, kind, or it's an angry one. You're still using the same words. It's
Yep.
tone. It's tone.
Right.
The tone of your speech. It's what really identifies your emotion. Besides
Now,
the words, but you can say the
right.
same words and have say different emotions.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all the form is more important than the content in many regards, or
Yes.
because
Yes.
it impacts upon the mode of delivery of the content
Yes.
and how it's
Absolutely.
received. Now, what
Absolutely.
attracted you to heavy metal as an attitude? Because I love the way you said
As an
that.
attitude, well, I mean, let me put it this way: there was a lot of anger and frustration during my early years in life before I became spiritually centered. And then after that, I found a positive energy from heavy metal
Mm.
rather than an outlet to release being in survival mode.
Hmm.
There's a difference between being an immigrant. Well, there's legal immigrant, illegal immigrant, and then there's a refugee.
Yeah.
Uh, I was a refugee, which means there's no plan B.
Mm.
Oh
When
wow.
you leave your country, you're not going back. If you're an immigrant, you're free to go back, or you're free to send money to your family for whatever reason you happen to be in the country. Uh, our reason for leaving our country was because my parents did not want my brother and I to live or to be raised under communism.
Right.
Very simple. So they gave up everything we had. We left our home. Like if we were going out for the weekend, we could not tell our relatives because we didn't want to make them. We did not have. It's not that we didn't trust them. It's just that it's better not said.
Yep.
It's better that they don't know what we're up to because they might really affect them, and then somebody's gonna go, "What's wrong with you?" And trying to be like, "Oh, you mean probably." Somebody's leaving leaving the country, because they were really nosy.
I bet. Yeah.
you know, our neighbors, and when I say family, is that we used to live away from. My mom and dad were raised next to each other, and
Okay.
they were neighbors. That's how they met.
Mm.
Then when they got married, they moved 2 blocks away from their mom and dad. So we were like
Okay.
always together, my family and my grandparents. So, they just didn't want them to be affected by it. So, we came to the United States and it took us about a year and a half to get a sponsor, to get the passport, to get all,
Mm.
every legal document to either leave the country, Cuba, and also in addition to enter this country, you
Mm.
know. So my whole life went from like, okay, this is the only thing I know, one language. We're all Cubans.
Yep.
Now I'm in a country that I'm a minority, really a minority. I mean, there were not as many Latinos in the United States 60 something years ago. when we first arrived. So I was not only starting all over again with my life, having to learn a new language, having to fit in into a culture, and I had to. There was no two ways about it.
You
It
must have been
wasn't
terrified. I mean, it's
no.
got to.
What happened is you discover the survival mode. I
Right.
went
Right.
into survival mode. So anything that would really reflect my how I felt emotionally, such as the music that reflected how I felt. Like first, I would say it was between Hendrix and Vanilla Fudge, Cream, The who are still my role model because
Mhm.
there's no band with more angst
No, there
than
is
The
not.
Who.
There is.
You
Dave is a giant self-proclaimed Who nerd.
I'm a Who
He's
know,
fanatic. Yeah.
okay,
crazy.
you're talking,
As
yeah,
long as I
The
can
Who,
remember.
yeah.
He's
Yeah,
taught me a lot about the Who that I didn't even realize I
it's really
gravitated
interesting.
to.
We having this conversation because just a couple of days ago, I finished tracking on that. There's a project, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it's reuniting some musicians that we used to play together,
Mhm.
and somebody else, as far as I'm going to go, and they ask us to play "The Real Me."
That's the best song. Oh my
That
God, that bass line.
Yeah.
yeah,
Holy shit.
the whole song is a bass solo.
Yeah.
It's the
You
whole
know,
thing. Yeah.
so it was really I this it was weird because I have such high respect for John,
Yeah.
and I knew him. I mean, we were friends. I mean, he was friends of the band Quiet Riot. So
Right.
whenever he happened to be in town in the 80s and we were in there and he was at the Rainbow, I'll either go to his table or he'd come over to mine, and we would talk. And
He seems like a very soft-spoken fella, but I think once you get him going, he's a real chatterbox.
yes, very dry sense of humor. And oh yeah, I mean, you just expect everything he's gonna say is gonna be something ridiculous, but he's gonna be like really stoic when he tells
Right.
you that.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and his attitude. Listen, a lot of these musicians in rock and roll started playing the ones that we grew up listening to
Yeah.
before there was rock and roll. So these were guys who, like in John's case, he was playing the flugelhorn. The
Oh yeah,
flugelhorn, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which is actually on, like on
He
Tommy and
plays
all of that.
right. He
Yeah.
plays French horn on some of their
French
stuff,
horn.
right?
French horn. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
The French horn. Now the flugelhorn,
I
French horn.
told you he was a Who nerd.
Yeah.
You didn't believe me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these musicians were musicians. They
Right.
understood music. They just didn't pick it up because they, like I picked it up because I liked it. And, I was a fat little kid and I was trying to get attention.
Whoa!
And
Mhm.
You were fat once?
oh God, yeah. I was fat not only
So was
once, but
I.
a few
I still
times.
have a chin.
and, and, and so, I saw the Beatles and Ed Sullivan. 1964, I just turned 13. President Kennedy got shot. I was in Jersey at the time.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and I had just joined public school number 5. My first day of school, I entered the class and the teacher puts me in the back of the room because I came in, we got relocated and we just happened to like have to enroll in school. The term already had started.
Right.
And so, I had been in the country for a couple of years. So I still, I knew maybe 10-15% of English.
Mm.
And living in Miami, we moved right into a Latin neighborhood. So it wasn't like I was forced to learn English until I was at school, you know.
Okay.
And then so I hear the teacher, and I'm putting away my books in the desk, and I got my head down. I hear the teacher, Rudy, and eventually I looked up and he points at me, yes, you, and I say, oh no, Rudolph. I was actually originally Rodolfo, then Rudolph in Miami, and then Rudy
Rudy.
in West New York. And I go, no, Rudolph, and he goes, no, you're Rudy from now on. Or you're
That's
gonna okay, you just let it go. I'm Rudy now, and and little by little, it's not only I was embracing and getting weaving myself into living in America
right.
as we knew it in 1963. Nowadays, that teacher could probably gotten fired. I'm
Oh
glad he
yeah.
didn't. I'm glad he did not, because now otherwise my email name will be Rodolfo Maximiliano Sarzo La Vida Grande Rey Paresamon.
Yeah, it would be
So,
really, really
Doesn't
long.
play
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
really thank you, uh, public school number 5
Oh, I
teacher,
love that. That's a good story.
for naming me Rudy.
Yeah.
And so so yeah, oh yeah, so getting back to the Beatles and the whole musical influence. I i was invisible when I could not talk to the girls. I had communication. My skills were poor because I didn't have the command of the language, and I'm still working on it, by the way. And
I've,
and
I've been
and
taking Italian lessons on Babbel. It's not going well. I can count to 3. It's terrible.
and Kennedy got shot. We went into like doom and gloom right before Thanksgiving. Then Christmas sucked because there was, again, there was no, you could not, you were too hurt. For me, what it meant was, see, Kennedy was the leader, the president who stood up to Castro, stood up to
Yeah.
Khrushchev, and all that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
After he got shot, I lost all hope of
Mhm.
ever going back to my country. So not only did we lose a president, I lost a hero,
Yeah.
hero,
Yeah.
and so okay, so we're not celebrating Christmas, we're not even celebrating New Year's Eve, and I'm a kid, I'm 13 years old, and I've just been going through this traumatic experience of leaving my country, then to go to Jersey, we're experiencing snow for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm getting hit by snowballs on the way to school.
Oh,
I have to
dear.
like dig out of my ears ice and snow. And it's like, okay, you know what? I need something positive in my life. So here comes February.
So you dealt with all
And
you were bullied maybe as a kid? I mean, I know I was.
who wasn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come
It's
on,
true.
there's always a bully out there. There will always be a bully in your life.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, it
You
Yeah.
doesn't
know,
have to be as kids.
yeah.
You could be older and
No,
still have bullies.
no.
Yeah.
And now we can stand up to them.
Right.
Right.
My
Because we feel
mom,
good about ourselves.
well, I gotta tell you, since you bring it up, the first time I was bullied, and that was the first time in my whole life, was when we first got to Miami. I mean, we have been there from Cuba maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and I mean, we were as dirt poor as there can be. My dad was still looking for a job, and he didn't know the language, so he, you know, he had to go menial jobs. He was working with fiberglass,
Oh,
Oh
the big boat
wow.
industry. Yeah, he would get in the tank, and this is before the days of restrictions or
right,
whatever,
right.
and no suit, nothing, just himself in a swimsuit in the tank,
Holy crap.
polishing, getting the fiberglass, smoothed out and
Can you
everything before it
imagine?
got painted. Oh yeah, he would come home and it would be like pieces of fiberglass on his arms, all over his body.
Oh dear.
So, but God bless him. It's that was his integrity. He'll do anything,
He had to do what he had
to
to
be
do to
able,
make a
yeah,
buck. Yeah.
Yeah.
to feed your family. So here I am. I asked my mom for a dime, just to get a kite at the
Hmm.
local 7-Eleven, uh, and which was down a couple of blocks from where we lived. So I took my little brother, who's 4 years younger than me. We bought a kite, and we went across the street to the park of the junior high school. This is in Southwest Miami, and I'm flying the kite in the park, and was happy. This is my first toy that I had,
Mm.
and I'm not even. I just turned 11. I wasn't even 11 yet. I was 10 years old. So here comes these kids, a gang of kids. Now remember, this is something that I did not realize until later on in my life, that not only was I in survival mode, I everybody else was.
Mm.
All
Right.
my friends, all the kids that came from Cuba. And I had a loving home. My parents were very loving, and but not all families were like that in the neighborhood, because I could hear it. the parents screaming at the kids because shit rolls downhill. So if the
Yeah.
parents had come to this country and they were like struggling for whatever, they would start yelling at the kids
Mm.
and the wife and whoever else happens to be in the house,
Right.
And so that anger permeated to the streets, the kids. Because the parents say, we were all living in small apartments, so the only place to go was on the street.
Right.
So we're all hanging on the street, and there were just angers, all these kids fighting and beating each other up because we were on survival mode, and
Yeah.
there was no walking away from it. You had to face it. You have to face the bully, and so what happened was that was the first time I experienced that.
Mm.
I so these gang of kids came over, maybe 10, and they circled my brother and me. That
Mm.
we were flying a kite. They started throwing rocks at the kite, and they busted the kite.
Wow.
And I'm like, I got my little brother, so I'm like, I'm protecting him. But at the same time, I was being approached. This is what happened. They took one of the kids and shoved them out of the circle right in front of me. And for the first time, I saw red. I know what it means to see red. At 10 years old, to experience that, I just started wailing at the kid. I'd never done that in my whole life
Mm.
because I
Wow.
was angry. I was crying. I was, I wasn't me. The real me. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just entered. Uh, and I gave him the black eye, and then from that point on, they respected me. It took
Right.
that act of violence,
Which is
you
horrible,
know,
but it worked.
it took away my innocence.
A
Yeah.
common tale. I mean,
I was never the
every
same again.
Christmas I watch the Christmas Story and I have flashbacks of getting beat up by bullies. And I had that moment that Ralphie had where he just got so
Yeah,
mad, right?
yeah,
And he
Yeah.
just went ape shit on the kid.
yeah.
And
You know
but from
what?
that
I've
point
never
on, they
watched that
start.
movie.
It's
I,
cute. It's very nice.
now that you mentioned that, I'm making a point of watching it because I didn't know that was in the scene.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they and
huh.
it's similar situation. He's got a younger brother, and they go to
Mm,
school every day, and every day they go to school, they're tormented by these bullies till finally,
yeah.
they have a confrontation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, looking at it now, of course, I don't think I would handle any different because I could not rewrite. It's the circumstances that led to that, and from that point on, it was either like this. I lost my innocence, and I once you lose something, you try to get it back
You
because
can't
I was
though.
so close to it. It was like it went like this. Well, if this is what 2 seconds between, it's
Right.
near. It's near. I just lost it, so I can just get it back. And I never could get it back again.
Mm,
But I
Yeah.
tried. I tried by being passive
right.
because I didn't want to go there ever again. And I would be passive when confronted, and my mom would say, "No, you have to live to defend. You learn how to defend yourself." And again, you going back to that place. But by that now I had lost my innocence. So it was like, you know, and thank God I survived
Yeah.
all of that anger. And you know,
Now
going back
it's
to
10 times
yeah,
worse though because you got street gangs and now they have weapons and guns and this
I
and that.
know.
yes, I
Kids are
know, I
getting killed.
know,
And we have
I know.
non-physical violence now because you have kids getting bullied on social media,
Right.
which
Mm,
causes emotional tumult, right? So you have kids where they're not being physically attacked, but they're being so horrifically bullied, then they physically attack themselves.
Right.
Whether they cut themselves or even worse. So the bullies don't
It's
even have to physically attack them to physically hurt them anymore.
traumatized mentally is a
Yeah.
lot worse in many cases. It could lead to lifelong, anxiety.
Right.
yeah,
Now, I have a little segue here. So you said that one of the things that initially maybe attracted you to heavy metal and I know it from the Who personally. I mean, you think about Quadrophenia, all of that angst, and it's an outlet. It allows you to emote your feelings. It gives you a sense that you belong to a community of others who feel weak or victimized. Is that kind of what attracted you to heavy metal? To feel a part of a community of people who have a little
Yeah,
bit of angst?
yeah. We were just talking about that. It not only that, one thing is to experience it as a soundtrack of your life from certain bands.
Yeah.
That's why I always gravitated more to John Lennon than I did to Paul McCartney. I love Paul, and he's got such a sense of, I don't know if it's real, and I think after all these years, if it was not real, it would be revealed that it's not real.
Right, right.
But Paul was like, to me, optimist, the ultimate optimist,
Right.
the eternal optimist. Oh,
Yeah.
we can work it out. Let it be.
Yeah,
Things
exactly.
like that.
A lot of
Okay.
lovey-dovey stuff. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's nothing dark in there that we could see. Lennon had darkness in it,
He had a lot of
and he
darkness.
turned it
Yes.
into his art.
Well, to have
Yeah.
Yes, he
darkness, you
did.
need light, and
He
that's what's
did.
so great
Yes.
about it. I tell people when I paint a
Yeah.
picture, when I
Yeah.
do my art, if you can't have light without the darkness
Yeah.
on the painting, and it's the same thing for music. And in the Beatles,
No,
that
no, no. You
John was
cannot
a little
have.
darker than John was.
Yeah. But see, light supersedes darkness, because as soon as you turn on the light, there's no more darkness. Once you turn off the light, you got total darkness.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's just physics. And I mean, if you want to go down to quantum physics,
Oh, hell yeah.
that's what I'm really into right now. I mean, I got into that actually during COVID. I said,
Yeah.
okay, I can either waste God knows how long this is going to take and
Right.
waste that time, or I can just, learn, improve myself as a human
I
being, as a
swear that's
musician.
exactly what I did. I got a
Yeah,
book about
yeah,
quantum physics to see if I could
yeah,
figure out what the hell's going on, and my
yeah,
head was just like
exactly.
exploded.
Exactly. I went in search, not necessarily on quantum physics, but on the healing qualities of music,
Yeah.
frequencies. Uh, because I played in front of many crowds. I played in front of many crowds with different tunings. And I
Oh,
got to tell
right.
you, the biggest song I have ever recorded was tuned to 432
Hmm.
without knowing that it was tuned to 432. I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm old enough that when I was playing in the 70s, our tuner was not a set frequency.
Right.
You had a pitch wheel, it was a cord with a tuning knob.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Kevin would hear it. Randy would go, okay, let me know when. And we'd go, woo, woo. And Kevin would go, that's the pitch. Okay, then we calibrate my other tuner, the one on my side of the stage, to that.
Which is very
Okay.
smart. I mean, you're calibrating
Yeah.
the band's tuning to the voice, the singer of the band.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Exactly. Oh, the way he heard things, the way it
Right,
resonated with him,
right.
right?
And
Okay, so yeah.
you're talking about tuning to the healing vibrations, right? And the
Well,
vibrations that we all share.
yes, exactly. But we were just kids. We didn't have the social media to investigate why is
Yeah.
this the way it is. No, we just did it. Okay, whatever Kevin said, no problem. Okay, and then later on in the 90s, we had the rack mounted version of the cord, and we take two little pieces of tape and we put them on that very last LED right there, the little light
Yeah.
on the end of the rack mounted tuner.
And that's where you want to be.
And yeah, but what happened was, if we were sandwiched in, let's say we would do like these Rock Never Stop shows where the band goes on before us and then after us. But so we will follow a band that would be tuned to A440 or E flat
Right.
on A440, and we sound like we're out of tune because it's so different, But then by the third song, everything is normal again,
Yeah.
as far as the ear. But if you listen to that song, it's not A440 or it's not E flat. Come on, feel the noise. That was okay. If you listen to any of the songs without keyboards on Metal Health, that's the way it is. Yeah,
Huh.
because remember back in the day, synthesizers were that you could not change the pitch.
Yeah, they're
on them.
fixed, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking about 42 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Please. I turned 60
Yeah.
this year. I'm feeling a little bit. I was
Oh,
actually born
hey,
the day before Kennedy was shot in 1963. My
you
mom
know
was in the
what?
hospital with me.
But think about it. You're 5 years away from being independently rich.
Oh, good.
Social
Yeah,
Security,
that's right. That's right.
Medicare. You're
That's right.
set for life.
See that day we
That's
have to
right.
sell a lot of Guitar Tales mugs.
That's
That's right.
right. We do.
Hey, more money to buy guitars.
That's right.
Oh God. I hope my wife isn't watching this.
Yeah,
By the
that's
way, you're
right.
married. You're married. You celebrated what? 40 years of marriage?
40 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We met in 1981. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mazel tov. That's what I have
Mm,
to say.
thank you. Thank you. Well, actually, we met in 1981 and got married in 1984. So we've been 43 years together. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what do you have going on? Let's talk a little bit because time flies on this show. We've been
You
together
know?
for a while now. So, what do you
Yeah.
have going on these days that we want to tell people about?
Well, I've just been playing with a Quiet Riot. And I mean, I might do some projects like I mentioned that the real me, just I get people reach out to me to play on different tracks, and if it's something that resonates with me or that I find it to be, hey, this could be a challenge, get me outside of the box
Yeah.
Mhm.
of what I do, and when I say what I do at the moment, because I play with Ozzy, I play with Quiet Riot, I play with Whitesnake, we play with Dio, I play with Blue Oyster Cult, I play with the Guess Who. They're all very different
Hmm.
They really
musically,
are. Yeah.
so I'm able to adapt, which is again adaptability. This is something that I learned very early on.
And then
Plus,
I love the new
pl-
bass too, by the way, with the polka dots
oh,
on it. It's a real
oh, the
tribute.
Spectre,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
great looking bass.
yeah. How beautiful is a made in New York Spectre Coda. And I grew up playing Fender Jazz, so that a profile not only on the neck but on the body also, because that has a
Yeah.
lot to do, everything to do with my right hand, how
Mm.
it feels the string, the high from the body, not just from the frets, but the body itself. Because this is where my hand goes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That angle, all of that has everything to do. Because back in the day, I bought a jazz, Fender Jazz, in '67 in 1967,
Okay.
and I played that all the way. I only had one bass all that time, one
Really?
bass. Oh yeah. Well, back in the day, we used to.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had
You
one
had
Right.
one
Right.
guitar and that
bass.
was it.
You had one bass, and if you need another bass, you trade that bass for something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, as a matter of fact, speaking of the Who, uh, there is a Rickenbacker model that I have photos of me playing. It's the weird one. It's like
I
double. What
know.
is
Yep.
that? Okay, that
Yeah.
one. Now, those go for $35,000 now, right?
Wow.
I asked John, the guy from Rickenbacker, and he says that Entwistle bought them all. Every time he would
Really?
find one, he would buy them. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Okay.
he had a sizable
He
guitar
yeah,
did.
bass
He
collection.
was an
yeah.
Alembic guy. I remember that.
Yes, it
A-
was too.
And
Yeah.
and in his younger days, he would steal
Mm,
his roto sound strings because he couldn't afford to replace them.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, I read that. It
Yeah.
was pretty cool. And he would just sort
Yeah.
of run out of the store and say, "I'll get you next time." You know,
Yeah.
kind of
How
like a
Probably
many times
worship.
Marshall,
has
the
Rudy
Marshall
Sarzo
store. Yeah.
broken a bass string? Have you ever broken bass strings over the years?
Yes, I have. I don't want to jinx it.
Ooh, sorry.
Uh, but I think the last time I broke one was the Roto Sound.
Oh,
but
really? Look at that.
but I haven't been after the Roto Sound went D Markley, then D Markley to the Adagio, and currently I'm playing DR strings, made in New Jersey, in New Jersey,
There
Yeah.
you go.
handmade in New Jersey. I visited the factory
Is that
Oh,
right?
and
that's pretty
I
cool.
met the whole crew. I spoke with them.
Oh, that's
Most of
awesome.
them, most of them Latinos were doing that. Beautiful job, beautiful company, great people, great families, family owned.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
have
What
my
town
And
in New
I have
Jersey?
my
and
Neptune, New Jersey made Kramer here from
oh
1987,
wow, wow,
which I
fantastic.
still have.
Love that. Love that.
The factory
Scott,
used to be right around the corner from where I
yeah.
live right now.
Ah,
Scott
great.
and I bragged to people. We had the great Henry Vaccaro on the show a couple of times, who was the head of what do you call it? Kramer Guitar. He used to work with Eddie, and
Mm.
interestingly, he was best friends with Johnny Cash.
Oh wow.
What an interesting combination. But he's done a
So
couple of
Yeah,
shows
talk
with
about
us.
visiting the factory. Have Van Halen and Johnny Cash come down to the factory
I
and hang
know.
out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
good
wild
stuff.
party right there.
It is a whole party. So let me ask you this. So
Yeah.
on the Real Me, what do you have to go through to either come up with your own sound or try to replicate that heavy, heavy sound that carries the whole song?
Yeah, it's virtually impossible. Okay, put it this way. When that record, Quadrophenia, was recorded, from that point on, John virtually stopped playing the Fenders and the Thunder, whatever. The basses were half Fender, half Gibson Thunderbird. The body was a
Yeah.
Thunderbird, and the neck was a Fender. He went to Alembic, so
Okay.
that sound changed. Now,
Interesting.
now what happens is, and I know this because I used to watch him jam locally in LA, John Entwistle. There will be
Right.
like a big jam going on, and then some guy is playing some Fender jazz bass and an amplifier, right? And it would sound like that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had this experience. I had to follow John on stage at some jam, and I look at the amp, everything it's turned to all the way to everything, every single knob. So I
Wow.
left it like that, and I plug in my bass, and it goes,
Oh, it's starting making a horrible
the
noise.
feedback, and I'm going, oh man, and you know what? By then I had already been playing with Randy and in Ozzy and Quiet Riot. So I understood that principle because Randy, let's say Fast Eddie Clark from Motorhead, I witnessed this. Oh, he wanted to like check out Randy's rig
Yeah.
during sound check, and
Right.
Randy hands him the guitar. Same thing
You
happened.
start feedback.
Feedback. This is John and Whistle's tone is his own. He's able to tame that
Yeah.
wild beast, which is goes from the guitar to the amplifier, and he's taming it and controlling
Mm.
it, and it's masterful, really is.
Yeah.
So in order to get that tone, you have to go back to that. And first of all, I'm recording digitally. It ain't gonna happen. You're not gonna get the
Yeah.
warmth or being in a
Yeah.
recording studio with going to a Triton board or whatever they had at that time when they recorded that song.
Mm.
And all tube, it's all analog, everything. Even the mastering, it's all went to tape. So to recapture that warmth, it's never gonna really be there. So all I can do is approximate it somehow,
Right.
some way. I have a Doug Pinnick DP3X,
I'm familiar with
the Tech 21
it.
pedal,
Yeah.
which again, New Jersey, New York,
Yeah. Another great
so it's
company.
all there, and it's the best. It's the best pedal I've ever played. It's got the compression, which that would be the only thing extra I would need, and it's included, and it's beautiful. Sounds great. So to me, that's the most complete pedal that I have, and I can play any style of music with that. But I was able to approximate it. Also, I used some plugins. I used the SVT plugin, the suite,
Right.
and it's really funny because I'm going through the presets because I'm listening to the playback and saying, okay, I'm going to stick the SVT, and I'm going, I'm going that thing. Okay, no. Yes, that one. I open up the folder of the preset. It's my own preset.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, because it comes with like all these artist
Yeah.
presets. Oh, it's like mine. I can't believe it. Because I never really pick my own,
Yeah.
things because
That's
but
wild.
it was like I just let my ear pick it. I was listening to the bass track, how it sat within the track with the other instruments, which is the most important thing because now you
Yeah.
hear how it's going to be shelved, all the frequencies, and I thought it was really funny that I picked my own, So yeah, that and also Genome from a company called Two Notes. They have this Genome, which is software based,
Mhm.
and they have this compressor that is just unbelievable. So I like to use that
It's
on the
cool that
tracks.
you're staying in
Yeah,
touch with the modern technology and all that stuff. Now,
Yeah.
are these the
you
things that people bring to you, and you said, "Well, I would have never thought of using that," or is it something you reached out to them and say, "Hey, I want to
I
try that"?
research.
You said
I I
research,
research, or sometimes it's an evolution. Like when I started working with Two Notes, I was using their Torpedo emulator pedal, and then they came out with Genome. And what's great about Genome is that when you record with a sound, you're basically stuck with that tone.
right?
Now, if you have a software that you can say, okay, I'm building the track basically,
Right.
and then by the end of it, you get a really good picture of what it's going to sound like. Then you start adding stuff to get it to where you really want it, to take it to. But
Right.
initially, I'm going with an 75% tone, meaning that I'm on the right track, on the right path, and everything else is going to enhance the
Mhm.
tone to take it to 100% of what I'm looking for.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's good
yeah.
stuff.
Because a lot of guys put down the digital stuff and the Kempers and the all these plugins and all that stuff. But in reality, it's if the sound is there, who gives a shit
Mm.
where it's coming from? Honestly.
Oh
Mm.
yeah. Live, I use the Tech 21, and I gotta have an SVT on stage. A lot of times, I would say 99.9% of the times, I'll go into the back, the power amp in, and I use the DPX, the Tech 21 pedal, as a preamp,
Mhm.
and it just works amazing. Now, one thing that really helped me is that I'm neighbors. I mean, we live in the same city, Doug Pinnick and me. So I went over to his house, and he taught me how to use it. He
That's
told
cool.
me about the nuances, because this is a very rare pedal where just a nudge of the knob, it changes everything.
That's like taking
Just
karate lessons from Bruce Lee. I mean, you go to the actual guy.
exactly. Well, he built it.
I
Yeah,
love
He
that.
built it.
exactly.
He built
Yeah.
He knows the
that's his
nuances of
baby.
the pedal.
That's his baby. And to have him explain all the nuances of it, it just made total sense. And then when I played it, it was like, I gotta have this. So I actually borrowed his extra one until Tech 21 shipped me mine.
Oh, that's
It
fantastic.
was life changing.
Isn't
To
that
finally
something?
get the sound that's in my head, actually get it out there for everybody else to hear it.
Yeah.
And to hear it myself when I play. That's
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I'm thinking about is how great does it feel when you get that right tone, you know? And then what does that do to your art? When you suddenly feel good about the tone, then
yeah.
it allows you to express your art a little bit differently and I think better.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not just one component. It's a series of components. Uh, First of all, it has to start with you, with the individual, because I can give my bass to somebody else and it's going to sound different.
Correct.
So, okay, so this is me. So I start with me, my fingers. I got very thin, bony fingers, and they're actually long. They're very long. So I play like this. So, I get a certain sound because I'm actually, the strings are hitting the fretboard when I play. So I get a very percussive tone. And I got different ways of doing, like, really fast notes that I've been doing that for decades, and without using a pick. Then it goes to the strings. That's the vocal cords. And I got to tell you, the DR pure blues, I don't want to ever play
Mm.
anything else. It's perfect. It's like putting Paul Rogers into my guitar. That's
The
what it
strings
sounds like to me.
are super important. I
Yeah,
can't stress that enough.
strings.
You
Yeah,
should
absolutely.
always experiment with if you don't have an endorsement deal, you should experiment with different brands of strings for guitars and
Yes,
bass, because there'll be that
absolutely.
day where you'll go, "Wow, where were these strings all my life?"
And what's really funny, and I was telling this story to Anthony from DR, is a friend of mine who is a rep for different companies. He was also repping DR. He sends me like 3 or 4 different sets, and because it said pure blues on the box, I said, no, it's
That's
gonna
not gonna
be
be for me.
bluesy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not for me. And it has nothing to do with the tone.
yeah.
It's not for playing blues. It's just a name, pure blues. So I call him up and I say, oh, I'm sorry, but it's not. I'm not hearing it. And he said, do you try the pure blues? And I goes, No, it says, okay, call me back after you do. Then I did, and the rest is history.
And he was
Yeah,
right.
so yeah.
Don't you hate
So
being wrong, but in a good way?
as long as the outcome is what I'm looking for, I mean, that's what life is. You make mistakes until you get it right, and then you move on to the next one. It's a matter of experiences. If you're not making mistakes, you're not making anything.
Can we talk
So,
briefly in the little time we have left here about your love of doggies? I'm a
oh
huge
yes, of
fan
course.
of doggies. I've
All
got
right.
two
I'm
here
taking
right now.
advantage.
Yours there.
David is muting his mic button because his dog is barking at every boat that goes by.
Yes, literally. Wait,
How many
now of
dogs?
course he
How many
stopped.
dogs you have at home right now, or do you just, do you have a bunch of dogs or one doggy?
No,
Or
just one
just the
at a
one?
time. It's a Yorkie.
I
So
see that you're always constantly, promoting local,
Yeah.
yeah,
local
I mean,
places
yeah,
to get people to adopt dogs and so forth.
yeah. I just do it. I won't even think about it. I just do it. It's like breathing. I'm not thinking about. We've all been talking and not thinking about breathing, but
Yeah,
we're breathing.
dogs are the best.
I had a Yorkie for 16 years.
Oh
The Mighty
yeah.
Duke. He was the Mighty Duke.
Oh,
All 6 pounds of
yeah.
him. And my
I
guy is
know.
losing his mind right now.
Now he has Bo eats guitars.
He
Just like
does. There we go.
just
I'm
like
gonna
that Blondie
remute.
song. My guys are outside the door here, and they're going to be upset with me when I finally finish the interview. But they're the
Yeah.
best.
Until you give him a treat.
Every morning I woke up by the pup. I showed
know.
you Clarkson. He's 2 years old. He's a handful. I get 70 pounds of golden retriever,
Go.
licking me in the face,
Wow.
waking my ass up every morning.
Oh,
They're the
that's
best.
beautiful.
Very
Beautiful.
beautiful.
And you guys are allowed to take him to the beach?
Um, Off season, yes. In season, it's a
Mm,
little challenging.
yeah, okay.
My guy
Okay.
loves the sand, is afraid of the water. I'm gonna remute right now.
My guy's afraid to get into the car in the first place. The first time I took him in the car as a puppy, I took him to the groomer, and he was super traumatized. And now he doesn't want to go in the car at all, no matter what I do. We're training him. He's still a young pup. He's a good kid. So you got back on tour this weekend, or you got a couple days off?
Yeah. I go back out, and it's pretty much on every weekend. As a matter of fact, some of the weeks are actually the whole week we'll be on the road. It's summertime. What happens is a lot of the shows go on during the week because we do fairs, and fairs don't shut down. They're open every day.
Right, they're
The
nonstop.
state fairs.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of that, and
I'm not a fan of outdoor gigs. I played 2 of back-to-back last weekend, and it was just unbelievably hot here in New Jersey.
well, they're
Beats
probably
up
not
on
as
me,
hot.
beats up on the equipment. So
I
I really take my hat off to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
for-
well,
for
last
hanging-
Thursday,
for hanging in there and putting up with all the weather and the rain and this and that.
yeah, last Thursday we did a show. Actually, it was a one-off. It was Blando and Jordan, guitar player and drummer for Slaughter, and
Okay.
me. We did a trio at this benefit in Austin, Texas. 100 degrees outdoors
Oy.
with the
Wow.
sun at 7 p.m. setting on us, and it was like,
Yeah.
it was devastating. Plus, the promoter decided to pick the songs, and they were basically all from the bands that I played in because we didn't play Slaughter or Quiet Riot.
Right.
Okay.
And so it was like every song was either a big time epic opener or a big time epic closer. Dio, Black Sabbath, that I played with Ozzy and recorded with Ozzy. Then the Dio, Black Sabbath, and the Dio, and then the Ozzy and the Black Sabbath and Whitesnake. 75 minutes of full tilt.
And you just
rock and
stand there
roll.
like a stone, right? You don't do a lot of jumping around anymore, right? I'm kidding. He's super active on stage and licking
I
the
moved
bass.
to, no, I haven't licked. I haven't licked in, let's say, 35 years now.
You haven't licked
Oh,
the bass?
really?
Yeah. Actually, 1990 or 34 years.
That was it. Okay.
I went to Liquors Anonymous. So
You're all done now. Right.
yeah.
The 12 lick program.
Because honestly,
That's
who knows
true.
where that bass has been? You don't want to get anything sickly inside your body, right?
Yeah.
No, you
That's
know
a-
what? Again, it was an attitude. It was an emotion. The whole history about that. I'm going to give you like the bullet points because I know we're running out of time. Okay, so I'm doing the video. Here I go again. White Snake. Okay, and the director left all the close-up shots, not the long shots, but the close-ups for the end of the shoot. So we're talking about maybe my turn was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Ugh.
We did Is This Love and Here We Go Again back to back. So it meant that the next day I had to come back and do Is This Love. And I'm going like,
Okay.
I gotta go home and get to sleep here because I had to wait for some of the other guys and then my turn. And by 3 o'clock in the morning, after being there all day long shooting, I was like running out of gas. So I do one take and he goes, is that all you got? The director said that. I said, "Just give me one more, please." And so I just went for it. I did all the crazy shit that I could think of, and just to get it all, done, so I could go home and get some sleep and come back. And
Right.
he says, "Okay, we got it." Then went home. About 4 or 5 weeks later, we'll gather in David's place to look at the video. And and I look at it and I go, I see the whole thing with the tongue, and then because it follows one scene with the other, it's like David's licking Tony's leg, and then I'm licking the bass. So it's kind of like I looked at it and went, "Well, thank God they didn't use the other stuff because that was even worse." So I just said, "Okay, that's
All
fine."
right. So that's
So
it.
yeah, I
Oh,
just wanted to
great.
get her over with. I'm done. I gotta go home,
Do you
and I
remember
did.
the first? I know that a lot of artists remember the first time they hear their song on the radio, and I was talking to Dave before the show. Uh, your recollection of the first time you saw yourself on an MTV video that you were watching television, you say, "Oh, that's me."
Yeah, it was a different experience because it was actually Halloween night, 1982. The Diary of a Madman performance at Irvine, California. Randy was supposed to have been there, but he
Mhm.
had passed away. We shot that like June 27, something like that. And that was the last show that we did in the continental US for the Diary of the Madman tour.
Mhm.
And I when I first saw it, I'm watching this in 1982, about March to Halloween. Was that like maybe 6 months? I mean,
Something like
I'm
that.
not
Right,
gonna,
right.
yeah, something like that. Randy had just passed away, and that was just a reminder of like, wow. I also had just left Quiet Riot. I mean, Ozzy to join Quiet Riot. So the complete unknown was in front of me.
Mm.
But by looking at my own performance, robotic performance of that video, I lost contact. I lost the joy of making music. So I
Mm.
lost my contact with the audience, the contact with the band. I was just trying to survive, again, survival mode.
Mm.
Yeah.
A traumatic experience that I still, we're learning to live with. We're never really healed from it.
No,
You know,
No, you just learn to live your life, but you can't.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah, and that's why when I go on the road, I finally have a purpose now. Which is to celebrate the legacy of Quiet
Yeah.
Riot and the
Yeah.
memory of Randy, Frankie, and Kevin.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
A
It's a
beautiful sentiment. A beautiful sentiment.
and a great tribute.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And the music holds up. You know how
it
many
does.
bands that
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
you
Well,
hear like the music doesn't really hold up.
I also I think that has a lot to do with, I mean, personally, I'm able to go back to and revisit the songs that I recorded 40 something years ago. So I bring my personal musical growth into it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind
I
of like,
mean, that we're not the same players we were when we
no, we're
started.
not.
We're
We're not.
constantly learning
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
changing
Growing.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
growing
Hmm.
Yeah.
and learning things about Doug's pedal
Yeah.
and everything
That's
else.
right. That's right.
Check it out.
Well, beautiful. Well, as is always the case in Guitar Tales, an hour feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's the way it works around here.
Yeah, just a bunch of folks sitting around talking about music and guitar and all that. So thank you so much for joining us. This is a fantastic show and a
My
I,
fantastic
pleasure.
I
time.
can hardly
My
remember
pleasure.
what we talked about. It's going to be fun to edit this show together.
Yeah.
And it's 5 minutes.
That's right. But it
That's
really feels that way.
nonsense.
Yeah, you know
All
what?
the nonsense.
I leave it all in and let the fans decide what they want to fast forward or not.
Yeah, that's right.
So to all our friends and fans, we want to let you know we have some new merch in our merch store. Actually, this is one of the mugs here. We have a little slogan here: "Life is too short. Buy a guitar." We're gonna come out one says "Buy a bass."
There you go.
For Rudy. And
My base.
it was great having you on the show. I think we have a new outro today from our good
Ooh.
friend Ron Bumblefoot.
Oh, I'm excited.
Oh,
Who's a big
Bumble.
Star Wars fan who did a yeah, if you want to do a bumper for us, you could just email to me or something. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
People like to see those. So
Yeah.
without further ado, David, I think we're gonna have this Star Wars song.
Oh, I'm excited. All righty. Well, thank you again, Rudy. This is fabulous.
My pleasure.
Hello, I'm Ron Bumblefoot, and you're watching Guitar Tales.